Because what we're getting to understand is that Rishabh Pant is out of danger. He's stable, yet in the ICU at the Max Hospital in Dehradun. But a larger question that emerges, was the car over-speeding? And also, are Indian roads safe? Because multiple accidents have taken place, especially in the recent past, some of them very high profile. On the other hand, a high-end luxury car like the one that Rishabh Pant was driving completely, erupting into flames. Is that normal? Let's take all those questions to our panelists this evening. I have with me Hormazd Sorabjee, editor, Autocar India, Rajani Gandhi, General Secretary, Tracks. Mr. Sorabjee, we still don't know. To be honest, we don't know whether the car was over-speeding, and that is why it turned many times after it hit a divider. But the larger question, are Indian roads safe? There have been too many incidents, some of them deeply tragic. Rishabh Pant is very, very lucky to get out of that car alive.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that Indian roads are not safe, but I think that's not addressing the right issue, which really is, are Indian drivers safe? I think we are a nation of terrible drivers. That really is the fact. We can go on blaming the roads, but I think the roads are not going to change in a hurry. We have to deal with it, and you have to drive accordingly. I mean, as I've said earlier, it's like a pilot. If a plane crashes in rain or fog or something, you don't blame the fog or the weather. You blame the pilot. That's how it is. So I think it all is down to the driver finally. In both cases, with Cyrus Mistry, that was also a case of driver error. Let's say maybe even rash driving in that case. And in this case, he just nodded off and fell asleep as per his account. We don't know really what the facts are, how fast he was going or whatever. But I think, that's not the issue here. You can blame everything on speeding, and finally it'll come to a point where if everyone drives at 20 kilometers an hour, your accident rate will automatically come down drastically. But, you have to take a kind of a practical approach.
True.
And speed is relative. It depends on
Sorabjee, have you seen the clip of it? Because, many would suggest that this is a car which was over-speeding.
Yeah, it could have been over-speeding, but I mean, the point is, if he didn't fall asleep, would the accident have happened? Are you trying to say the speed caused the accident, or falling asleep caused the accident?
No, so, I do agree, and he's terribly lucky to get out of that accident alive.
It's all very well to say he was speeding, but I think that's not the issue over here. It's speed is, it's physics. If you can't control the speed, then of course, you're going to have a terrible accident. And, he's very lucky to have got away. He was lucky to have been in a very strong car, which is very robust and, a kind of, and above all, he was wearing a seatbelt. A lot of people don't give enough value to how effective a seatbelt can be. I mean, even people in lesser cars have walked out without a scratch just because they've been wearing the seatbelt. So a lot of factors at play over here. But my issue really is, in all these cases, frankly, the driving in India is generally terrible, far worse than what the roads are. And I think that's not being addressed enough.
Well, you are right. And, I'll ask you one more question, because there are multiple questions on social media which are coming forth on the car that he was driving. It's a high-end luxury car. Would you think one of the reasons that Rishabh Pant actually got out alive of that car, because by the looks of that car, it seems nobody would have made it out alive from there? Would that be because the car was sturdy enough to sustain an impact such as what, we saw at least in the CCTV images? And the other part, Mr. Sorabjee, that many also talk about, which is the incidence of so many cars catching fire on impact.
Yeah. So I think, firstly, definitely, the Mercedes he was driving, they are built to a very, very high safety standard. So he was very lucky to get away. And I think one important point here, which is different from other crashes, is that if he nodded and fell asleep, he didn't even have time to apply the brake. So that meant he really went into the divider at a really high speed, because otherwise, when you do a misjudgment, you realize you hit the brakes, you try and slow the car down, and even that's not enough. But typically there's always some sharp deceleration before impact if you're alert. But in this case, he was asleep, so I assume he didn't even touch the brakes. So the speed was quite high. And it's amazing that, he walked out. It really is a testimony to the body structure of the car. Now, cars catching fire, it should not happen, but they do catch fire. Don't forget, these cars are with very flammable fuel. Typically, it's a protocol that all manufacturers, whoever it is, they have a fuel cell which is typically should be puncture proof. It's got a bladder inside which kind of, doesn't allow it to spill. But, at the end of the day, the severity of the accident, can make things happen. It could be a fuel line got ruptured or whatever. I don't know what the issue was or what even the condition of the car was that led to it. It may have been something, which was not related to the design. So we don't know that. But it's not that fires don't happen; they do happen. I mean, these are, the cars run on very combustible fuel, and petrol is much more combustible than a diesel, and this car was a petrol car. So yes, fires do happen, but he was again very lucky to get away. And looking at that image, I think really, he's got a second life.